Welcome back to the studio. You're watching Eye on Africa here on France 24. I'm Shona Bhattacharya. Let's take a look at our top stories in this edition. Dancing for joy in the streets of the Gambia. Residents celebrate opposition candidate Adama Barrow's win after 22 years of Yahya Jammeh as president. Using rape as a weapon for ethnic cleansing in South Sudan. UN investigators continue their tour of Eastern Africa. Our correspondent reported on what she saw in the affected areas and what the international community is doing about it. And defying a ban on homemade alcohol in Cameroon. Government authorities are powerless to stop the distribution of Odontol, a toxic brew sold in plastic sachets. Our team on the ground reports on the dangerous drinking habits of many Eastern Cameroonians. Celebrating in the Gambia, residents poured out into the streets of the small West African nation when the Electoral Commission announced Adama Barrow won Thursday's election. The incumbent president, the loser, Yahya Jammeh, has conceded defeat in an address that was broadcast on state-owned radio on Friday evening. Jammeh is accused of cracking down on journalists and opposition figures during his time in office. Many of the country's 1.8 million residents say they're relieved at the idea of no longer living under constant fear.
I will never forget this day. Long live Adama Barrow. I wish him all the best. We are happy now. No more sacrifice, no more backward. At least the youths can do something for their country. You know, those who are on the asylum, they can come back to the country and work. Do you know how many thousands of people are outside there? They are afraid to come to the Gambia because of this crazy president we had before.
Gambia, we are suffering for 22 years. This guy
we need peace. We need peace.
We need peace and money.
I think I'm one of the most happiest guys today throughout the whole world because this is what I've been looking for so many years. And right now, today, my dreams have come true.
Adama Barrow is a newcomer to Gambian politics. The 51-year-old real estate developer is an unfamiliar face to many. Laurent Berstecker has more on the president-elect.
His face has been plastered on thousands of posters and T-shirts around the country. Yet just 6 months ago, Adama Barrow was still a political unknown. The Gambia's president-elect first entered politics in 1996 when he joined UDP, the United Democratic Party. Barrow moved to London a few years later to pursue a real estate degree, also reportedly working as a security guard. He returned to the Gambia after graduating and founded his own real estate company in 2006. Discreet and soft-spoken, Adama Barrow was thrust into the limelight after the jailing of top UDP officials in July. He soon became the main opposition candidate, representing a 7-party coalition. Undeterred by his lack of experience, Barrow campaigned for change against an opponent, Yahya Jammeh, who had been in power for 22 years. Yet the newcomer always seemed confident of his victory.
Our chances are great. People have shown of tremendous support. With that support, we are 100% plus that we are going to win.
A devout Muslim, the 51-year-old is also a husband to 2 wives and a father of 5. The self-professed workaholic has vowed to reverse the country's status as an Islamic republic, to rejoin the ICC, and to limit presidential mandates to 2 5-year terms.
Using rape as a weapon in South Sudan, UN human rights investigators are continuing their tour of the eastern part of the African continent. They say rape is being used as a tool for ethnic cleansing, though women of all groups have been affected. The world's youngest country saw civil war break out in December 2013, and the peace deal putting an end to the conflict collapsed in July, sparking renewed violence. For more on the claims of ethnic cleansing, Simona Fulton reported earlier. She filmed a report in Wau, where UN investigators traveled this week. She told us what she saw.
The ethnic violence that I saw in Wau was really just one example as part of a general spread of violence to parts of the country that had been previously largely unaffected by the 3-year conflict. And what happened in Wau and in other towns in Western Bahr el Ghazal region and Equatoria region was kind of a systematic nationwide recruitment and deployment of soldiers from the National Army, particularly from the Dinka ethnic group, which is the President Salva Kiir's ethnic group, being deployed to these areas and then being accused of committing atrocities against the minority tribes that reside in those areas. Of course, the government would say that these soldiers were merely responding to rebel activities in the areas, but the inhabitants of those regions would accuse the government of launching a campaign to dominate and even wipe out these smaller tribes. And in the town of Wau, for example, victims told me that soldiers from the Dinka ethnic group targeted civilians from the Farti tribe, killing children, raping women, looting the properties. The youngest victim was only 2.5 years old, and the account his mother gave was really heart-wrenching.
The soldiers told me to open the door to the house. Before I could do that, they fired at the lock and opened it. The bullet hit my child and our neighbor's wife. My son was covered in blood. I started washing my child's body and he was crying for half an hour before he took his last breath.
Now, Simona, how has the international community responded to these reports of ethnic cleansing in South Sudan?
Well, really, throughout the entire conflict, the international community has largely failed to contain violence in the country, be it from a political perspective, from a military perspective, or even just to protect civilians. Politically, the peace deal that was signed in August 2015 has largely collapsed. The UN Security Council has not agreed on an arms embargo or sanctions in South Sudan. Militarily, there has been a regional protection force that has been approved, but it has yet to be deployed. And in terms of protecting civilians, the peacekeeping mission that is currently in South Sudan has failed to protect civilians within its own bases, around its bases, and has certainly failed to deploy troops into the areas where fighting takes place to try to save lives. So overall, the situation looks really dire, and it seems that the international community is paralyzed and is really unable to find a solution to bring this violence to an end.
2 Iranian nationals and their driver have been arrested in Kenya. The 2 men were charged with planning a terrorist act. They were caught filming the Israeli embassy aboard an Iranian embassy car in Nairobi this week. They deny the charges. According to the Kenyan prosecutor, the 2 men had also visited 2 other Iranians at a maximum security prison outside the capital. They were sentenced in 2013 for possessing explosives. He's the latest victim of Ethiopia's state of emergency. Merera Gudina, a prominent opposition leader and chairman of the Oromo Federalist Congress, was arrested this week and is said to be held in an unknown location. He had recently returned from Belgium, where he had addressed the European Parliament. Ethiopian authorities say Gudina is being held for violating the state of emergency. More than 11,000 people have been arrested under the state of emergency since early October. Ignoring a ban in Cameroon, residents in the east of the country continue to consume Odontol, a toxic homemade alcohol. Locals call it whiskey and buy it in plastic sachets. In the last few weeks, at least 27 people have died and dozens more are still being treated after having drunk the liquid. The drink, however, is as popular as ever, as our team reports.
These small sachets of 45% strong whiskey go by the name of gladiators, fighters, King Arthur, or even Lion d'Or. Whiskey in the bag, nicknamed condom here in reference to its plastic packaging, is sold at just 100 CFA francs, a bargain for thousands of whiskey lovers like Thierry and Moussa. The 2 friends' morning routine is whiskey for breakfast.
When I wake up in the morning, everyone, even those who have to go to work, we meet here. Because before going to work, we need to have breakfast to wake up a bit.
Not far is Brigitte's shop. She's a wholesaler selling whiskey in sachets. A fan of her own product, she's already inebriated at this early hour. She doesn't pass up any opportunity to promote the hard liquor and has even found it therapeutic virtues that she recommends to children for supposedly curing meningitis.
It's recommended to give this to children at least every evening or even just once a week. It's recommended for children.
The idea of treating children with whiskey has researchers at this medical institute fuming. For Roger Baleba, packaged whiskey is an over-the-counter poison, a toxic mixture of ethanol and dangerous plastics.
It's dangerous to keep whiskey in plastic bags because the chemicals in the plastic will transfer to the whiskey. Those who drink it are unaware of this, and the consequence is that after having some whiskey, they may go to sleep and never wake up.
Marketing and selling whiskey in the bag has now been banned for 3 months. But the condom continues to cause a sensation.
We're staying with Cameroon for our final story, where the Women's Africa Cup of Nations is being held. The final is Saturday, and Nigeria's Super Falcons have held the competition in their claw-like grip. They've won all but 2 of the championships held so far, but Cameroon's Lionesses hope luck is on their side this time. Being on home soil is a plus.
I am here to support the Lionesses. Women's football has now been galvanized because of these women, because they have proven that they can do something in Africa.
I came to support the Lionesses. Women's football wasn't as celebrated as men's football in the past. But these women's performance during this tournament means that they have gained our trust. I wholeheartedly support them, and I support Ajara.
Thank you very much. That's the end of this edition. There's more news coming up on France 24. Stay with us.